This is a learning and exam preparation video for the IB Business syllabus. At the end of the video are practice assignments for you to prepare you from the exams. Please click www.intmace.com on the link at the bottom of this video to do the assignments for this topic. Unit 1.4, Stakeholders 2. Areas of mutual benefits and conflict between stakeholders' interests. Possible areas of mutual benefit and conflict between stakeholders' interests. Groups of people with a common interest, such as a business, may also have differences of opinion. This situation makes sense. Although all stakeholders have a stake in the business, their focuses are different. For example, would be pay rise for employees, but shareholders will want pay to be low to increase their earning on their investments. Shareholders, they may object to the idea, as it could decrease profits, and, therefore, their return on investment. Employees, they would favor pay rises, which would give them a higher standard of living. Areas of mutual benefit and conflict between stakeholders' interests. In between these two positions, various stakeholders would be of mixed mind. 1. CEO and senior managers. They would in principle probably support paying higher wages, as this would make the employees happier. CEO and senior managers, with responsibilities for meeting profit targets and return on investment ratios, would also be worried that pay rises would lower profits. 2. Managers. They same as the CEO and senior managers. A pay rise might undermine their efforts to foster a culture of intrinsic motivation. 3. Local communities. They, in principle, would favor higher wages for employees, as it would mean that employees would have more money to spend in the local community, shops, etc. If the pay rises in any way threatened the existence of business, the community would not favor the idea. Possible areas of mutual benefit and conflict between stakeholders' interests. Small business. Any decision of importance will elicit different reactions from different stakeholders. There may be friction and alliances may be formed as each stakeholder's group jockeys for position. One feature of successful businesses is that the interest of stakeholders are sufficiently satisfied most of the times. In some instances, managing stakeholders' interest is not particularly complicated. Example: an individual running a small shop. A. He or she as a sole trader typically has relatively few internal stakeholders, the sole trader and an employee or two. B. While in theory the business would have several external stakeholders, the community, the government, financiers, suppliers. These external stakeholders typically have such a small stake in business that the decisions of the shop are relatively inconsequential. See thus, for this type of business, satisfying the interests of stakeholders is not complicated. D. What is required mostly is being profitable enough to pay for expenses and provide the sole trader with an income, and to be in compliance with laws and government regulations and with community standards. Possible areas of mutual benefit and conflict between stakeholders' interests. Large business. The other types of business, especially the large ones, coordinating the interests of stakeholders is a much more formidable challenge. Example: large business operates a factory in a small city. 1. The factory may be the most important employer in the area. In this instance, the various stakeholders have a major stake in the success of the business. 2. For example, a 20% reduction in the workforce might lead to reduced expenses for the business, but it might also mean greater productivity out of the workforce that was not retrenched, if the workers retained were pressured into working harder to make up for the smaller workforce. 3. Shareholders may be happy with this outcome, as might the CEO and senior managers. However, the workers would be dissatisfied. Those losing their jobs would be unhappy, even those keeping their jobs would not like seeing their co-workers go. 4. Even if the business were not pressuring the remaining workers to work harder to make up for the lost work of those retrenched, a general sense of fear of more job cuts would affect all the workers. Possible areas of mutual benefit and conflict between stakeholders' interests: local community and local government. 1. Many employees would struggle to find new jobs, and government expenses, support for the unemployed persons, would increase. 2. Probably many people would move away from the town, selling houses or moving out of rental flats, thus depressing the real estate market. 3. When families move away, the number of children in the school may fall, thus leading to layoffs of teachers in the school. 4. Local businesses would suffer, as fewer employees of the factory would mean fewer people with the resources to purchase at local shops and restaurants. Possible areas of mutual benefit and conflict between stakeholders' interests. Stakeholder analysis. 1. Large business or those business that have complicated stakeholder interests often perform a stakeholder analysis. 2. The first step is to prioritize or rank the interest of various stakeholders. 3. One conceptual approach to this step is to determine how close each stakeholder is to decision-making in the business. 4. Under this approach, management and employees are central to decision-making, while suppliers, financiers, and consumers are further removed. 5. Most distant are media and federal and national governments. 6. Decision-makers try to satisfy those stakeholders to the center. Areas of mutual benefit and conflict between stakeholders' interests. Stakeholder analysis. Another conceptual approach involves a tool called Stakeholder Mapping, of which there are numerous models. One particularly valued model was formulated by Johnson and Scholes and called the Power Interest Matrix. By placing each stakeholder group in a matrix, a business can decide on likely strategies. Groups of stakeholders. A. They have minimal interest in the business and have limited power over it. They are a problem for the business. Owners and managers fairly safely ignore them, or at least devote limited energy and attention to satisfying their interests. B. For owners and the managers, making this group feel included is important. Newsletters, events, and other way of conveying a sense of belonging are important. C. This pivotal group must be kept satisfied. They have the power to influence other groups. The business must find ways to flatter the self-esteem of members of this group to make them feel important. D. They are the most important. The business must not merely communicate with them but also consult with them before any major decision are made. The business should focus on their need in preference to the others. Failure to involve and satisfy these stakeholders can have very negative consequences for the business. Practice assignments, exam prep assignments for the IB Business Studies syllabus. You may now proceed to try out the exam preparation assignments. All assignments will be marked and feedback will be given. Should you need to speak to one of our tutors, send your email to administration@intmace.com. Please proceed to the link www.intmace.com at the bottom of this video to commence with your practice. Please click subscribe to our video if you find the content useful. All the best with your assignments.